My name is Marjorie Fuller, and I am the Director of the Center for Black Culture and Research here at West Virginia University, and this is Social Justice Spotlight. Responding to the needs of students is our top priority here at WVU, and an inclusive classroom environment that reflects the diversity in our world is crucial to creating a safe and positive learning experience for all our students. We at the Center are doing a series of interviews with academics and professionals from across campus who understand the importance of a culturally responsible curriculum. They have successfully infused their courses and academic programming with information that will help their students have a more positive learning environment. We hope that you will join us for these important discussions in all 4 episodes of our Social Justice Spotlight series. With us today are 3 professors from the philosophy department here at WVU. Chair and Professor Dr. Sharon Ryan, thank you so much for being here. Dr. Jeff Georgi, thank you. And Dr. David Howinski, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here to talk about this very important topic. We're going to begin by just having you introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about what you do and your department.
My name is Sharon Ryan. I'm the chair of the philosophy department, and I have the privilege of doing that job, which I love. And one of the things I really like about my role in the department is I get to make things happen. And so I have some really passionate goals and commitments that I have, and I have a great team of faculty and students really who are working with me and promoting things that really put philosophy at the center of things, and I'm just thrilled to have this job. And one of the things that we really care about as a department is diversity and inclusion, and we've done some things like David invited George Yancey to campus last year, and we're looking forward to partnering with the center for other speakers this year, hopefully something with the Martin Luther King celebration. We are developing a course in philosophy of race, and I think what I care most about is what you already talked about, and that's making an educational experience where people can feel comfortable expressing themselves, trying out new ideas, being wrong, and learning and developing the skills and passions for changing the world and making it a better place. I think our students, that's going to be their role, and I'm just honored to be a part of that.
Thank you.
My name is Jeff Georgi. I've been at WVU since the fall 2012 semester. I teach logic, philosophy of language, and metaphysics, and really only in the last few years have I gotten very interested in using the tools that I'm teaching students in these classes to begin to get them to think about issues of social justice. But now I am trying to incorporate these materials into all of my classes. The first one was a capstone seminar in fall of 2018 where I investigated analytic philosophy and social justice, and those readings have begun to creep into my other classes, but it's a process. Have to be right up front about that.
I think that's very important too, that we look at developing social justice issues as topics to be covered in courses like yours as an important part of developing your lesson plans and your curriculum.
And I'm David Howinski, and I have also taught in the philosophy department at WVU since fall of 2012. And I've been very lucky to teach this current moral problems course, which is a course that I guess has been on the books for WVU philosophy from time immemorial. You said it predates you by a long shot. So I mean, it's always been here, but that course has been such a nice vehicle for addressing some of these issues. And So Sharon mentioned that George Yancey came and gave a talk at WVU, and we had some events surrounding that talk as well. But that visit from George Yancey, who's doing such important work in the philosophy of race, it really grew out of a current moral problems course where I was teaching Yancey's work. And we were trying to talk about philosophy of race and the ethics of race. And one of the main reason being that I believe it's a serious current moral problem, the sort of racial tensions that we have in our country. And so again, like Jeff, I wanted to use the tools of philosophy to help students explore these issues and figure out how, maybe we can make things better. Maybe we can make some progress.
Great. Fantastic. You kind of went into one of my questions already a little bit. I was particularly impressed by your decision to bring George Yancey, the Black philosopher, to campus. I really wanted to ask each of you, how did you come to the decision that it should be him? What was it about him that made you say, this is our event for this year in this area?
David, I think
The answer is actually, I knew him personally.
Okay.
So he was actually one of my professors when I was getting a PhD in philosophy.
Oh, okay.
So I knew him on a personal basis before I ever knew him as a, sort of public philosopher.
Right.
But of course, in the years since I finished my dissertation, his work has gained more and more recognition, particularly because of the articles he's put in the New York Times.
Right.
Especially Dear White America, which generated a huge response, a lot of it negative, which I think attests to sort of ongoing racial tensions.
Absolutely.
And I just thought, how cool would it be if we could bring George Yancey to WVU, in light of his work and his, the notoriety he's gained for really, I think taking a bold stand on these issues.
What kind of feedback from students did you get after that presentation?
It was pretty enthusiastic, I thought.
Was it?
Yeah, and I think what really impressed me is we're a pretty small department and a very collegial department, and we all have offices very close together. We're all on campus a lot, and I would say, for the next month, we had students in the hallway in our tutoring center just hanging out, and discussions about Yancey's talk just continued with the faculty and students.
Yep.
And so I think it was really an incredible event for us. I think it brought us together, and none of us is really an expert in the philosophy of race. So I think we were all learning and trying and being challenged, and for me, at least, that's the most fun part of philosophy, is when you're not the expert and when you're really feeling like, whoa, this is an interesting idea, this is a challenging idea. And so for me, it was, I just, even people in other departments would come up to us and say, wow, that was a really great event. And then we'd be off talking about some of his ideas and making new friends really around the campus. So I thought it really fostered a sense of intellectual community that, we always need to improve.
Yeah.
So,
I had several students come up to me at sort of the days after that event and say that it really shook them to their core. Which I thought was that's what we should be doing.
That's absolutely what we should be doing.
Instructors and as members of the university community is challenging them that deeply, and they, none of them expressed resentment or any kind of unhappiness about it. They were thrilled, they were excited, but they also realized that there were these vistas that they had been previously unaware of.
Right.
So it was a really, I think, pretty important experience for a lot of our students.
Very eye-opening. I mean, there were things when I read Dear White America, that struck me, and I study this on a regular basis. So it was the kind of event, I think, that would bring people together to converse about this topic that we all think we know a little bit about, but maybe don't know as much as we think we do. And you all had a picnic too that I thought was very, very successful in both the turnout and some of the conversations that I heard happening there. What was that about? I just came because I'm right next door. But what made you decide to do that event, and what do you think some of the outcomes of it were?
Well, I guess
I'm sorry,
I
it's a little
organized
off
the
of it.
picnic, and
Great.
for me, it just speaks to, again, like my core values and what I really care about, and what I really want to do as a chair of the philosophy department. And it's a way to get people together outside the classroom to foster a sense of intellectual community, respect, even friendship. And I think philosophy students and their friends in other departments have something special about them, in that they really are passionate about talking about ideas. So it's a way for me to gather people together who are very intelligent and really ought to be meeting each other, and just to make our department alive, not just going to class, doing your research, but sharing your ideas with one another in a very unthreatening, fun atmosphere. So that's something, I mean, we do a lot of events like that there's really no agenda.
Right.
Except that let's get together and talk about ideas informally.
Let's come together and reason.
Yeah, I think we have done a good job of diversifying the student population that studies philosophy just by doing those things. So it's not just, the typical image of a philosopher. You go to these things and you realize, wow, there are people just like me who care about philosophy. So.
What are some of the methods that you use in your classrooms to help students understand the importance of a diverse curriculum?
This was a hard question.
I know.
Because again, the answer is, for me, it's a process, and I'm still learning how to engage the students that way. So adjusting, changing my syllabi to reflect a wider diversity of authors is a very basic thing, but I mean, also, this is a process for me, and I don't have a good answer for that question yet.
Well, I think that was a good answer.
Me too.
I'd like to just say, Jeff, that you've really inspired me to be a little bit more courageous in the classroom. So when you did this capstone maybe a year or so ago, I just heard so many things from students about the materials, and then we had a student present at our in-house conference on something that she was studying in your class. And I've totally revised my theory of knowledge class to be just much better about like epistemic injustice, so just more social epistemology. And it's not just about race that we need to be thinking, but I don't use textbooks in my classes anymore. I do a collection of readings I put on eCampus, because if you just look at the standard Oxford University Press collection on philosophy of religion, epistemology, it's all white men. And so I just refuse to have my students pay into that system, and the topics are crusty old things, and it's not reflecting what students really care about and what they ought to care about. So I just want to say thank you.
Well, thank you.
I teach a lot of historical authors, so I teach a lot of Plato and Aristotle and Descartes and Nietzsche. And so even and then in addition to that, I teach these current moral problems where we tend to read more contemporary authors. But even in the historical courses, I'm constantly trying to, maybe not constantly, but I'm repeatedly trying to sort of draw students' attention to questions about how is this relevant for us today? How is what Plato is saying maybe relevant for us today with respect to the various social and political problems that we encounter?
Yes, I think that, I'm not going to do that now. I'll talk to you about that later. What are some of the challenges and pitfalls that you've faced as you've made efforts to diversify your curriculum and to reach out to students and help them understand these moral problems, or some of the things the challenges around race in an academic department? Has there been any pushback or anything that you faced that you felt was particularly difficult?
That's interesting.
I think, I mean, one interesting issue is, how do you get students to talk to each other about these issues? Students who come from diverse backgrounds.
Right.
And, so I think that's an interesting question. And, as Sharon said, I mean, it's we're doing philosophy, and so we want to challenge each other to think more deeply, to consider different perspectives, different ideas, different life experiences. And so, how do you sort of facilitate that discussion, between students, and also like with yourself as the professor involved in discussion as well? And, I think one thing, honestly, and this is something that actually that Bell Hooks says in conversation with Yancey, is that I think humor is very important.
Agreed. Well, I guess my last question for you today is, what upcoming events or ideas do you have for the department that you would like to talk about this morning or today?
Well, one thing that we will definitely be doing is Devin Curry, our newest assistant professor, is developing a course in philosophy of race next semester, and he'll be ready to teach that in the fall of 2020. So I'm really excited about that.
Very excited.
And I think we'll probably do like a reading group or something, just informal, discussing some of the things that come up in that class with students, with faculty, with staff throughout the university. So we're hoping to make that course sort of an inroad to some more bigger things and more connections with, people like you.
Well, you can work with us. That would be wonderful.
On these questions who are ahead of us.
And I think we'd also like to focus on bringing in. Professional philosophers. Who we'd like to focus on bringing in women and people of color, Black philosophers, so on and so forth. Because in philosophy as an academic discipline, traditionally, women and persons of color have been underrepresented. And I think there's a recognition within the philosophical discipline at large that that's a problem, and that that's something that we need to work on going forward. And so I think for us, we would love to have some more. We have one woman on our faculty, Sharon, but we would love to bring in some more women speakers. We would love to bring in some Black philosophers, some Asian philosophers, people who are representing different perspectives and backgrounds. First of all, just for the sake of representation, right? We want our students to see, we want our Black students to see, we want our female students to see that, there are women doing this, there are Black people doing this, and so, you can do it too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to thank the three of you so much for coming here. I know how busy your schedules are. I know how demanding your students are, and they are your priority as well. But you have really enlightened me and us today about what you are doing in your department, and please keep up the good work, because we're all looking to you.
Thank you, Marjorie. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks.
And thank you for joining us for this, our first episode in our Social Justice Spotlight series.